We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we're going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond.
And we're going to take Doge to Mars. I mean, can you imagine how awesome it will be to have American astronauts plant the flag on another planet for the first time? Yeah!
We've got ones that can see. Welcome everybody to today's show. We are going to start seeing more and more propaganda about Mars. Of course, this is all because of Elon Musk and Donald Trump using repetition, of course, and convincing everybody out there that we're going to go to Mars and humans are going to plant a flag on Mars. The more they say it, the more it becomes a reality in the minds of the sheeple, because repetition is the key to mind control. So as you heard Donald Trump again at his State of the Union address, his State of the Circus address, once again, like he did on Inauguration Day, mentioned Mars. Elon Musk, of course, continually talks about occupying Mars, colonizing Mars. So a lot of the NASA space propaganda is going to roll out. And one of the things you're going to see, in addition to the things with Mars, which I'll get into in a second, are things like this. Sunrise on the moon. Private Blue Ghost lander captures amazing shot after historic lunar touchdown. And of course, looks like something that was made with Grok or made with some type of Photoshop. But of course, the sheeple will believe that it is authentic because it is told that it comes from NASA. And if it's told that it comes from NASA, Republican or Democrat will believe it as true. Just like when they fictionalize wars on the news. If they see it on the news, the sheeple will believe that it's true. So things like this bogus picture of the sun rising from the moon, and even more propaganda about things happening on the moon, are going to occur so that people out there don't question the stuff coming with Mars. In other words, there's people out there who hear the stuff about Mars and then they might stumble upon people like me and you who say, we've never even gone to the moon. And they say, oh, that's ridiculous, we went to the moon. And you say, well, how come we've never gone back to the moon? If technology has only gotten better and better and better and better, how come people have never been back on the moon? And they actually do start to think. And they say, well, that is an interesting question. And then they look into it and they get the bogus answer from NASA that they lost the directions or they lost the ability to go to the moon. And then people do start to get suspicious. So you're likely going to hear more propaganda simultaneously about the moon as we're going to hear about Mars. So there are a bunch of things going on right now, again, with Mars. The goal of sending humans to Mars. Is it feasible? Can we actually do it? So we're transitioning from all this talk about Mars, where the majority of sheeple who hear it, they don't process it. And they think, well, Elon Musk is just kind of some crazy, wacky guy talking about going to Mars, and I don't know what that possibly means. And the more news stuff that they air, talking about, can humans go to Mars? Why can humans live on Mars? Can we colonize Mars? The more it'll get ingrained in their mind, and the more they'll believe it when they roll out all their propaganda telling everyone that we've gone to Mars. So even if you look into, Google AI, right? I like to use these Google AI answers now because this is the number one way people are getting their information, right? So if a sheeple was to type in, can we go to Mars? Can we live on Mars? Yes, humans could go to Mars, but it's not possible for ordinary people to do so yet. But NASA hopes to send humans to Mars in the 2030s. They even give you comical things like distance from Earth to Mars, 500 days round trip, right? 6 months to get to Mars. There's all this stuff that's out there. But let's just look, before I show you the propaganda that they're airing, because you got to see what they're airing on ABC to start convincing people that we could actually live on Mars. We have all these other things that people need to know about. And again, if you haven't seen my videos on the topic, I'll give you a quick rundown. Remember Elon Musk tweeting out, Mars will be called the New World, just as America was in past centuries. New World is a New World Order. One day, Mars will save Earth. I am certain of it. Humanity will reach Mars in your lifetime. And of course, the alt-right media, as they are with most things pertaining to Israel or pertaining to telling you that your vote actually counts and talking about that guy's mysterious island, feeding you government psyops. Of course, people like Alex Jones will talk about Mars as well, and Elon Musk's plan to colonize the moon and Mars, and why it's critical to the future of humanity. So we've, of course, seen all of these bogus pictures that they show us and tell us are from Mars, where you see the red rock, right? Kind of like some of these where you can even see an Arctic lemming who are native to Devon Island. Because, of course, if you're not familiar, again, Devon Island is where they do these experiments and tell you that they're actually on Mars. NASA even tells you Canadian Arctic serves as red planet training ground. Getting to Devon Island in Canada's far north is very hard to do. But of course, Devon Island, which is very, very far north, happens to be right next to Greenland. And with America's acquisition potentially coming very, very soon of Greenland and Canada and the North American Union, of course, they will make it so that nobody's able to travel anywhere near that specific area. And Greenland will, of course, serve as a base for a lot of the operations that are going on Devon Island. So this all goes back to Project Mars, for anyone out there that doesn't know, a technical tale by Wernher von Braun. Again, Wernher von Braun, who is deemed the real creator of NASA, wrote a fiction novel, which is playing out as real life in this world, because that's pretty much what our reality is. It's scripted. Project Mars, a technical tale, follows a fictional story where a global united Earth government, after a devastating war, launches a mission to Mars based on the discovery of Martian canals by a powerful space telescope. Global united Earth government. And in that book, the Martian government was directed by a man, the leader of whom was elected by universal suffrage for 5 years and entitled Elon. So the leader of government, Elon, the guy who wants to occupy Mars, right? And don't forget, again, with Elon Musk's grandfather, in science we trust. Technocracy. That's what they are attempting to build out. There will be no politicians, business people, money or income inequality, right? Universal basic income, another thing that Elon Musk is a proponent of. Those are all features of what technocracy called the price system, and it would have to go. There would be no countries called Canada or the United States either, just one giant continental landmass called the Technate, a techno-utopia run by engineers and other experts in their fields. In the Technot, everyone would be well housed and fed. All material needs would be taken care of, whether you had a job or not. And Joshua Hadelman was a leader of Technocracy Incorporated in Canada. And that, of course, is Elon Musk's grandfather. And those other things that I mentioned about utopia, about everyone being housed and fed, sounds a lot like the so-called utopian town that Elon Musk is building in Texas. Does it not? Test run anybody? So we have a science fiction novel from Wernher von Braun, the creator of NASA, about a futuristic people who would colonize Mars and would be led by someone called the Elon. On top of that, we have Elon Musk, of course, doing what? Pushing the Neuralink, talking about humans competing with AI, needing the Neuralink to give humans superpowers. Creating a Neuralace is the thing that really matters for humanity to achieve symbiosis with machines. Accelerating Starship development to build the Martian technocracy. So talking about technocracies, Martian, Mars technocracy, talking about machines and humans symbiosis, man and machine becoming one as humanity's collective consciousness, all with this Mars experiment that they are going to run. Now, what they have to do going forward is convince people out there that this is a no-brainer, that this isn't just some crazy idea, that it's achievable. It's going to happen. And you're going to hear more and more propaganda like what I'm about to play for you that aired on ABC, where they're convincing people out there that it's possible to go to Mars, when the reality of the matter is it's not possible to go to Mars. It's not possible to even go to the moon. And everybody out there with common sense should know that because we haven't been to the moon. We just have photos of Freemasons pretending to be on the moon, and they've never gone back to the moon because they never went in the first place, and they don't even fake going back because they know that people will probably dissect it in today's world and call it what it is, fake. So it is an impossibility to go to the planet Mars that they tell you exists out in the solar system. But this is the propaganda they're going to use to convince you that you can.
It would be the longest trip by astronauts in space ever, and it would be filled with unprecedented challenges. We're talking about the ambitious new goal to get humans to Mars. President Trump laid it out in his inaugural address, but is it even possible before he leaves office? In tonight's Prime Focus, our Gio Benitez looks at the promise and the perils of the dream to plant the American flag on the red planet.
All engine running.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I am determined that the American space program will put its full intellectual power and technological prowess behind the search for further evidence of life on Mars.
We will then be ready to take the next steps of space exploration, human missions to Mars and to worlds beyond.
By the mid-2030s, I believe we can send humans to orbit Mars and return them safely to Earth.
It's been a lofty goal presidents have had their sights on for generations.
We will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
Now a new ambitious push for humans to set foot on Mars. Can NASA pull it off?
I think NASA's track record of making the seemingly impossible happen is proof.
I look at the plans for going to Mars and I think, oh my gosh, that seems impossible. But we've done the impossible before, so I think we can do it again.
And with SpaceX's Elon Musk having the president's ear, the impossible may finally be within reach.
Can you imagine how awesome it will be to have American astronauts plant the flag on another planet for the first time?
NASA confirming, for now at least, layoffs are not on the horizon. And it will take a Herculean effort to make a mission to Mars a reality.
To get humans to Mars, a dream that's been out there for 50, 60 or more years.
And that next window is just a year and a half away.
Even with the most powerful rockets we have, there is a window of 20 days every 26 months. And that's it. Literally be there or forget about it.
Dr. Scott Hubbard is someone who knows what it takes to get to the red planet. He used to run NASA's Mars program.
I invented something called program systems engineering, which is the idea of how do you couple missions so each builds on the other.
Now NASA is trying to build from the Artemis mission to the moon to humans setting foot on Mars. It will be an incredibly challenging mission filled with problems never encountered before, and a crew of astronauts daring enough to make the journey.
Astronauts are here to explore, and astronauts go to space because they believe that humans should be a multi-planet species.
Do any of you want to go to Mars?
If we had all those answers today, I would absolutely go to Mars.
Ignition and liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V.
Astronauts Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore thought they were signing up for an 8-day trip to the ISS, 9 months later, they're still there.
We came up here fully trained, so not returning on our spacecraft, we transitioned into being a crew members on the International Space Station.
And this experience may one day be useful to those Mars explorers.
Being up here, it's not about a singular mission. It's not about a singular trip to Mars. We're part of a long legacy of exploration, of human exploration of space, and we're doing our little part to try to advance that.
We've got this timetable of going to Mars, and it appears to be moving up. What is some of the research on the space station right now that could help with that?
We've done several experiments where we're growing things. How do we sustain ourselves? We can't pack all the resources we need on a trip to Mars and sustain a long mission. So we're going to have to figure out how to grow the food that we're going to need.
But there are so many problems that need to be solved.
Do I think we could do it? Yes, we could do it. There would be a lot of extra risk that we haven't had a time to reduce yet.
Dr. Rihanna Bakari is thinking about how to get humans to Mars.
So right now, all of our healthcare delivery to astronauts really focuses on direct communication with Earth. And that communication delay is going to be quite large. If you have to wait for 40 minutes to figure out if you need XYZ drug and something really critical is happening, that's going to be a problem.
To put it mildly, the journey would be unprecedented. We're talking about a journey that could take months just to get there.
You're absolutely right. Things are likely to break on a trip to and from Mars. So you cannot take every single spare part with you. You're going to have some way of additive manufacturing, 3D printing.
In addition to transportation, you need a habitat. We have not yet built a place for astronauts to live for the 6 or 7 months it would take to get there and have a really reliable life support. And to get to the land, you have to do what is the hardest entry, descent, and landing in the solar system. Mars has a very thin atmosphere, and it makes it the worst. So you've got to use all the tricks in the book to get safely to the surface.
And getting there is only half the battle. A round-trip mission would take at least 3 years, and astronauts would be exposed to all sorts of conditions that could lead to health problems.
You'd have to accept that increased potential risk of cancer. The bone and muscle risk, there's not really a current solution right now. The mental health risk, the potential for an emergency.
Will NASA solve all of these problems in just 18 months?
I seriously doubt that you can get humans to Mars and be ready when the window opens in 1.5 years. Not all opportunities are equal. And if you were to look out to 2033, you see an opportunity that comes only once every 15 years.
Ambition is the lifeblood of a great nation. And right now, our nation is more ambitious than any other.
Ambition is what it will take to get to Mars, and those astronauts on the ISS have a little advice for whoever might make the trip.
Nothing goes as planned, and be ready for that. A little challenge, a little adversity brings out the best in us, honestly. It'll make you think outside the box, make you find solutions, and make you find out a little bit more about yourself.
From Apollo to Artemis to the Red Planet, Americans once again reaching for the stars and trying to redefine what's possible.
Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve.
Our thanks to Gio.
So, of course, the more you hear those things and the more you hear about how we're going to get there in 8 years, we're going to get there by 2030, we're going to get there by 2030, says NASA, the more you're going to see propaganda like that. Because remember, think about the world we live in now, about aliens. How many people believe aliens exist? A lot of people do, right? The things that I discuss, and you most of you already know about aliens and demons being one and the same, and Aleister Crowley summoning Lam, the gray, what we now look at as a gray, right? Nobody understands any of that. The common person, their head exposes if you tell them. But then when you ask them, why do you believe in aliens? They don't really have an explanation. They go, well, this universe is large, so there's got to be something out there. Well, who says the universe is large? School? The TV? The movies? Right. Have you seen it with your own eyes? Probably not. So why would you believe it, right? But people actually believe that aliens exist. Why? Because they've heard it and heard it and heard it, and it's been beaten into them so badly since the television came out with movies and shows about aliens and Star Wars and Star Treks and all this other crap, that they actually believe it to be reality. They hear the lie long enough that they believe it to be true. So now you're going to see them start cranking this stuff up with Mars. And how many people could go to Mars? And how can we get to Mars faster than in 6 months? Now, I don't know what their plan is. If in fact they use Devon Island, what we know they'll do with Devon Island is they will use their news, their fictional news stuff from Devon Island. Everything they film, they won't green screen it. They'll go to Devon Island because they'll be afraid that people will be able to see it as a green screen. They'll use Devon Island. They'll film people there in fake spacesuits walking around like they've already done and tell everybody that these people are on Mars. They'll probably use Elon Musk for that. If they're going to actually attempt to colonize and tell humans that they can go to Mars and create this, what's the term? This futuristic race, as the book details, where I'm sure it'll be man mixed with machine, then that'll be another level of propaganda. Maybe telling people that they have to take a pill when they get on their SpaceX rocket, right? And they'll be asleep for 6 months. And when they wake up, they'll be there and they'll be told that it's 6 months later. Who knows how they'll do it, but they'll do it. Because we know that they can convince these people of nearly anything. The outbreak was a perfect example of how they could convince people of anything. We still see the effects of what a psychosis is. So they're going to create this psychosis with the news, trying to factualize Mars, use NASA, use SpaceX, use these people that they trust. The Republicans trust Musk. They'll use NASA for the Democrats, and they'll all agree, well, it is possible. I heard it's possible. There's life on other planets, right? We could go to Mars, and then eventually you'll start seeing it happen. And it'll all be fake, just like everything else in this simulated reality that we live in. So expect more Mars propaganda in the coming months. I expect every month there to be some propaganda out there. In fact, I expect it every week in the mainstream to hear about Mars, whether it's Musk jumping on stage or Trump talking about planting a flag there. They're going to simulate it. They're going to do it on Devon Island. There's no doubt about it. Because at this point, they know that the people will believe anything. And that's why they've waited until now to go forward with these agendas. Because they know the people are dumb enough to believe it and not question it. Perfect example, obviously everything that happened during the outbreak, right? While there were some that questioned it, there were some that didn't. They know when it comes to space, the majority of sheeple, you saw the response when Elon Musk yelled about Mars. How many of them cheered? Like buffoons. We're going to go to Mars? How cool. Plant a flag there? Buffoonery. Buffoonery. The stuff that these people believe, that they're told, that they've never seen with their own eyes, that they trust their government that tells them all of this stuff. Because where else would you hear about it? Oh, the school system. Who trusts that? Well, nobody should. Oh, the television set. Well, who trusts anything on their magic psychosis box? Well, nobody should. But they believe in a different reality than the one that's actually occurring. They're creating a simulated world, and these people are believing it as reality. You see the psychosis around us. You see how many people hate one another based on politics. How many people have Ukraine flags in their lawn when they don't even know what Ukraine is. It's a hub for the Central Intelligence Agency. It's a laundering hub, right? They put a flag. They don't have a clue. So this will be something that's very easy for them to fake. And of course, they'll put their little disinformation stuff out there about people like me and you, and they'll feed them lies that they'll regurgitate as to, trying to explain away the things that we say, like Devon Island, I'm sure will become more and more known. And these people are like, that's not true. That's not Devon Island. I've been to Devon Island. And they'll say, I know someone that lives in Devon Island, because they'll probably put a documentary out called Devon Island, right? And they'll put all these people there living in a small town like Greenlandish on Devon Island. And these people will be like, see, they live on Devon Island. You'll be like, well, you don't think they could have just staged that? Just to say, kind of like they did at the Hook at Sandy, and just say that it was a town when it wasn't? You don't think they could stage and tell you that that's what Devon Island looks like? No, because they can't think that far. They're like, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're denying what I saw on Dateline NBC. Oh, right. Sheeple is as sheeple does, ladies and gentlemen. The Mars attacks will continue on the minds of the masses. It's coming. It's coming. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.